It's strange. There are nights you forget, and then there are nights that never leave you. November 8th, 1978. We were live at NBC Studios. Cameras rolling, audience ready. Everything exactly the way it always was. And I was sitting behind my desk, coffee mug in hand, thinking this would be just another show. Across from me sat Lucille Ball. She looked exactly the way America remembered her. Elegant, confident, untouchable. Blue sequin gown catching the studio lights, pearls perfectly placed. That signature smile, the one that made millions laugh. But here's the thing. When you sit where I sat for years, you learn to see past the performance. And that night, something felt off. We started the interview like we always did. I threw out a joke. Lucy fired right back. The audience loved it. The rhythm was perfect. The timing, flawless. She told stories, acted out moments. Every beat landed exactly where it should. But I wasn't just listening, I was watching her. And behind that perfect timing, behind that polished smile, there was something else. Something tired. Something quiet. About 12 minutes in, I glanced at my notes, then toward the wings. A producer gave me a small nod. That was my cue. Straightens posture slightly. I set my coffee mug down, turned back to Lucy, and smiled. Lucy, we have a little surprise for you tonight. Her smile didn't disappear, but it paused, just for a second. Should I be worried, Johnny? She asked. I let out a small laugh. I don't think so. But this might mean a lot to someone. And then, a small figure walked onto the stage. A 7-year-old boy. Quiet. Careful. Almost too careful. Beige cardigan, light blue shirt. Hands close to his sides. His name was Michael. The audience reacted instantly. Soft applause, warm smiles. It felt like one of those simple television moments. A fan meeting his hero. I stood up, shook his hand, and guided him to the couch. Right between me and Lucy. Lucy turned to him with that same gentle tone she'd used for decades. Well, hello there, sweetheart. What's your name? Michael looked at her, and for a moment, he didn't speak. Like he couldn't believe she was real. Then quietly, Michael. I stepped in, keeping things smooth. Michael, I hear you're a big fan of I Love Lucy, is that right? He nodded. I watch it every day, he said. The audience melted. Everything was going exactly how it was supposed to. Sweet, simple, controlled. But then, something changed. Michael turned toward Lucy again. Not like a fan, slight lean in, like someone trying to understand her. Miss Ball, can I ask you something? Lucy smiled. Of course, sweetheart. And then he said it. The question that stopped everything. When you fall down on the show, and everyone laughs, are you scared inside? Silence. Not the usual quiet, the kind that feels heavy. The kind that tells you something just happened. I looked at Lucy. Her smile slipped, just for a moment. But it was real. Why would you ask that? She said softly. Michael didn't look away. Because I get scared too, all the time. And when I watch you, sometimes I think you look the same way I feel. I felt my hand tighten around the desk. I reached for my coffee mug, then stopped. This wasn't television anymore. Lucy looked at him again, really looked at him. Not as a performer, not as a star, but as someone being seen. How did you know that? She asked. And Michael said something I don't think anyone in that room will ever forget. I watch your face, not the funny parts, your face. And right before you do something scary, you look like me. That was it. That was the moment. Lucille Ball broke. Not acting, not performance. She cried. Real tears. Deep, uncontrollable. Honest. I've been doing this for 40 years, she said. Making people laugh. Falling down. Being brave. Her voice shook. And in all that time, no one ever asked me if I was scared. The audience didn't laugh. No applause. Just silence and tears. And me, Johnny Carson, for the first time in years, I had nothing to say. And in the middle of all of it, Michael leaned closer and gently took her hand. It's okay, he said softly. Brave people get scared too. They just don't stop. And in that moment, a 7-year-old boy was teaching one of the greatest stars in the world how to be human. And I knew this night was no longer under control. Deep breath. I remember sitting there, looking at Lucy, looking at Michael, and realizing something I had never felt on this stage before. We weren't doing a show anymore. This was something else. Lucille Ball was still holding Michael's hand. Her makeup was beginning to smudge, her carefully built image slipping away in real time. But she didn't try to fix it. She didn't reach for a tissue. That's when I knew this was real. Michael, she said softly, her voice trembling, how did you see that? How did you know I was scared? Michael didn't hesitate. Because I feel that way all the time. The words landed hard. You could hear someone in the audience gasp quietly. I go to different houses, he continued, and I have to smile and be good so they don't send me away. But inside, I'm scared. Lucy closed her eyes for a second, like she was trying to hold something back, but it was too late. And when I watch you, Michael said, I think maybe you understand. That was the moment everything shifted. Not just for Lucy, but for me too. Lucy looked at him again, this time with no barrier left. No performance. No protection. Just honesty. I am scared, Michael. I've been scared for a long time. The audience went completely still. I'm scared that I spent my whole life, she continued, making strangers laugh while my own children were growing up without me. I felt something hit me in the chest. Hard. I'm scared that I chose wrong, she gestured slightly around the studio. All of this might not mean anything. Her voice dropped even lower. I go home to an empty house every night. You could hear people crying now, not quietly anymore, openly. And I'm scared, she whispered, that I played a character so well. I forgot how to be myself. I couldn't stay behind the desk anymore. Johnny Carson, me? I stood up, walked around the desk, and sat down next to Michael. On the other side, now it wasn't an interview. It was a circle. 3 people holding on to something real. I looked at Lucy, then at Michael, then down for a moment. Lucy, I said quietly, I think I need to say something too. I know exactly what you mean. The audience turned their attention to me, but this time I wasn't hosting. I go out here every night, I said, and I make people laugh. And then I go home, alone. I paused. That wasn't something I ever said out loud. I've been through marriages, relationships, and somehow I still end up by myself. And the strange part is, people think we have everything. I look toward the audience. They see the lights, the applause, but they don't see what happens after. I turn back to Lucy. And maybe that's the hardest part, feeling alone when everyone thinks you're not. Michael looked between us, like he understood, more than he should. And then he said something so simple, but so powerful. You're not alone right now. That line, it changed everything. Lucy squeezed his hand tighter. I felt my throat tighten. For the first time in a long time, neither of us felt like performers. We just sat there. 3 people, no script, no plan, no control. And somewhere in the control room, I knew producers were panicking. This wasn't what the show was supposed to be. But no one cut to commercial. No one interrupted. Because deep down, everyone knew this mattered more. Lucy looked at Michael again. Tears still in her eyes, but something else now too. Relief. Michael, she said, you just did something very important. You asked me the one question no one ever asked. And you told the truth, even though it was hard. She smiled slightly through her tears. That's what being brave really is. Michael nodded, like he understood. I learned it from you, he said. Lucy let out a small broken laugh. Then I guess I finally taught something real. And in that moment, I realized something I had never fully understood before. Entertainment is easy. Connection is everything. The audience wasn't watching a show anymore. They were witnessing something. Something honest. Something rare. Something real. And I had a feeling this night wasn't even close to being over. The commercial break ended, but nobody moved. The cameras stayed live. The studio lights were bright. Too bright for what was about to happen. Ellen Rodriguez stepped onto the stage, a woman of quiet strength. Her eyes red from holding back tears. She wasn't supposed to be on camera, but something told her this moment mattered more than rules. Lucy, still kneeling to Michael's level, looked up, surprised. Ellen? She asked softly, voice still trembling. Ellen's hand shook slightly as she spoke. Miss Ball, I need you to know, Michael has been with me 6 months. In 6 months, I've barely heard him speak 20 sentences. He has nightmares. He won't make eye contact. But every evening at 6, he watches your show, and for 30 minutes, he smiles. He's not scared. The room was silent except for quiet sniffles. Lucy's hands, still holding Michael's, tightened involuntarily. The pearls around her neck caught the studio lights, sparkling like hope. Ellen continued, voice thick with emotion, you've been more of a mother to him than anyone since his real mom disappeared. I just thought you should know that. Lucy stood up, her gown shimmering as she moved across the stage. She pulled Ellen into a tight embrace, and for a moment the cameras didn't matter. This wasn't television. This was real life. Lucy turned back to Michael and knelt down. See, Michael, brave people fall down, but we get back up. Her voice broke as she placed her pearls around his neck. These aren't real, sweetheart, costume pearls, but what we shared tonight, that's real. Michael's small hands trembled as he reached into his cardigan pocket. He pulled out a folded crayon drawing, a woman with bright red hair falling down, smiling. Below it, in careful 7-year-old handwriting, you are brave. Lucy pressed it to her chest, tears streaming freely. The audience was openly sobbing now. Johnny Carson, usually composed, had tears in his eyes. Johnny, still sitting beside Michael, turned toward the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going back to regular programming. This is more important than entertainment. This is real. Back on the couch, the three of them formed a circle. Lucy, Johnny, Michael. They weren't performing, they weren't hosting, they were connecting truly, deeply. Lucy spoke again, her voice raw, honest. I am scared. I've been scared my whole life. Scared I spent it making strangers laugh while my children grew up without me. Scared that all this fame doesn't matter when I go home alone. Johnny nodded beside her. I know exactly what you mean, he said. I've made millions laugh, but gone home alone. Michael squeezed their hands. You're not alone right now, he whispered. The audience remained completely still. No applause, no chatter, just silent witnesses to something miraculous. Lucy laughed softly through her tears. Then I finally taught something real, she said, looking at Michael. And at that moment, something shifted forever. The Tonight Show was no longer just a stage. It became a sanctuary of truth, vulnerability, and courage. Michael's foster mother, Ellen, had stepped into the story, and suddenly, the world could see that what mattered most wasn't celebrity, it was connection. Lucy had learned, in front of 40 million viewers, that bravery wasn't about never being scared. It was about letting someone see the fear and still doing what mattered. This small, brave boy had shown two of the most famous people in America the power of honesty, vulnerability, and human connection. And just like that, television had changed. The Tonight Show wasn't about jokes anymore. It was about truth. Lucy would carry this moment for the rest of her life. Johnny would never interview the same way again. And Michael, he had found a family and a hero in ways nobody expected. This night, November 8th, 1978, wasn't about laughs. It was about courage. It was about being seen. It was about falling and being lifted by unexpected hands. The aftermath of that night was quietly extraordinary. Lucille Ball returned home, still trembling, her pearls and crayon drawing in hand. For the first time in decades, she felt seen. Michael Harris had found a new kind of safety. For the boy who barely spoke now had a voice that had moved millions without even knowing it. Ellen Rodriguez, his foster mother, couldn't stop smiling. The bond between them was unshakable. Lucy made a promise that night. You're not going back into the system, sweetheart. You're going to be okay. And she kept it. Using every connection, every resource, every ounce of her influence, Lucy worked tirelessly with Ellen to ensure Michael's adoption would be finalized. Months later, on March 15th, 1979, in a modest courthouse, Lucy stood quietly. No costume, no cameras, no applause, just Lucille Ball. Beside her, Ellen and Michael. A judge signed the papers. Michael Harris was officially adopted. Gentle ambient music, slow close-up of Michael hugging Lucy. For Lucy, it was more than a legal victory. It was a personal transformation. The woman who had spent 40 years hiding behind laughter, behind characters, behind scripted perfection, had discovered the power of authenticity. Michael's presence became a bridge. Lucy's own children, Lucy and DeCessie Jr., began joining Sunday dinners. Conversations long avoided now flowed freely. Love and honesty replaced the silent walls of celebrity distance. Hey Jen motion cue, subtle tears, soft smiles, gentle hand gestures, Lucy embracing Michael. Lucy also began visiting foster homes, hospitals, and schools, not as Lucy Ricardo, the icon, but as Lucille, a woman who understood fear, loss, and courage. She met children like Michael, offering them the gift she had learned to give herself, being truly seen. Johnny Carson, profoundly affected, carried this lesson forward. The Tonight Show evolved. Interviews became deeper. He shared his own vulnerabilities, teaching America that laughter and truth could coexist. Slow camera pan, archival footage blended with Hey Jen avatar gestures. Michael Harris thrived. The shy, withdrawn boy transformed into a confident young man. He became a child psychologist, specializing in foster care trauma. He founded the Real Lucy Foundation, helping over 15,000 children connect with mentors who teach emotional courage. Lucille Ball lived another decade in genuine happiness, not fame-driven joy, but the joy of family, connection, and authenticity. She kept the tradition. Every November 8th, she and Michael watched the recording of that Tonight Show episode together. A reminder of the night courage, honesty, and vulnerability changed everything. The crayon drawing Michael gave her hung in her bedroom until the day she died. It read simply, "You are brave," the most valuable piece of art she ever owned. Ambient tone or gentle reflection. Television had captured an iconic moment, but life had created the real miracle. Lucille Ball rediscovered herself. Johnny Carson discovered the depth of human connection. Michael Harris discovered that he was worthy of love and family. Slow fade. Hey Jen avatar, Lucy, Johnny, and Michael holding hands. Subtle smiles, tears, soft nods. NBC Studios honors it with a small bronze plaque. November 8th, 1978, the night television became real, in memory of the courage to be vulnerable, Lucy's story reminds us all, fame, success, and accolades mean nothing without truth, connection, and courage. Bravery isn't never being scared, it's letting someone see your fear and still moving forward. Michael, now 53, continues his mission. Every child in the Real Lucy Foundation receives a replica of the pearls and drawing. A legacy of bravery, love, and authenticity continues to grow. The story doesn't end with Lucille Ball's tears or Michael Harris's adoption. It's what came after that defined the true power of that night. Michael grew up carrying two truths. One, he was brave enough to show his fear. Two, he was worthy of love and family. Hey Jen, motion cue, subtle head nods, blinking, soft hand gestures, Michael smiling warmly. He became a child psychologist, specializing in foster care trauma. But he never forgot that evening on The Tonight Show. It wasn't just a TV moment, it was a lesson in human connection. Lucy's influence expanded beyond Hollywood. She visited foster homes, hospitals, and children's shelters across the country. Not as Lucy Ricardo the icon, but as Lucille Ball, a woman who understood fear and vulnerability firsthand. Every child she met, she reminded, you can fall down and get back up. Bravery is real, even when you're scared. Johnny Carson also transformed. His interviews began to reflect empathy, depth, and authenticity. For him, that night proved connection matters more than ratings, and truth matters more than performance. Slow zoom, hey Jen avatar, Johnny adjusting suit, thoughtful expression, gentle hand gesture. The ripple effect of that night spread far beyond NBC studios. Psychologists studied the episode in classrooms. Books referenced it as an example of authentic leadership. The episode was preserved in the Library of Congress. Hey Jen motion, slow pan across plaque in NBC lobby, subtle camera tilt, reflective lighting. Lucy lived her final decade in genuine joy. Family dinners became weekly rituals. Michael, Ellen, and Lucy's children grew close. The woman who had spent 40 years hiding behind comedy and costumes had finally found herself. How are you? Sign Fashion, the Real Lucy Foundation, continues to thrive. Every child who enters the program receives a replica of Lucy's pearls, a replica of Michael's crayon drawing, a lesson in bravery, vulnerability, and connection. Hey Jen motion cue, children holding pearls and drawings, smiling, soft light rays. The legacy of that night continues to inspire millions. It reminds us fame, accolades, and public praise mean nothing if we are not willing to be authentic. Bravery isn't never being scared, it's showing your fear, asking for help, and choosing to move forward anyway. Lucy, Johnny, and Michael, each transformed by that singular night. The power of vulnerability, courage, and human connection lives on. If this story moved you, share it. Comment your moments of courage or connect. Remember, even legends fall, even brave people fear, and even a 7-year-old can teach the world what really matters. You are brave, you are seen, you are never alone.